Hello everyone and welcome to a new video. Today we are going to talk about the World Fantasy Awards nominees and winner in a little video. I read all of them in October actually, and now I see that they announced the winner the 20th of October, but then I was sick and I didn't get to film this video, so it was like right before the winner was announced. But I do like to read main nominees for some like main fantasy awards. I think it's very fun to discover what is like what do people think is high cultured fantasy in these days. I don't even know what to call it. In school right now we're talking about like rewards and like who decides what gets nominated and like how that is considered quality compared to other things. It's very interesting to think and talk about, but that's besides this video. I have read all the 6 nominees. Some of them I read for the Nebulas earlier this year, which is another vlog on my channel. I was going to do this into a vlog, but then I read them at such an awkward time I didn't have time to film updates. So we would just have a normal sit-down video, which is honestly, I don't do them that often anymore, but I should get back to it. And I am gonna talk about in an order of how much I enjoy them personally. This is obviously so you don't have to read them and you would just obviously come to me because I am obviously right of all my opinions. I'm just messing around. But yeah, let's get started. Out of the 6 nominees, we have on the bottom, which I feel like it's weird to say because it's not like I dislike the things on the bottom, it's just that I like the other things more. There's where it goes. So I am putting on 6th place Witch King by Martha Wells. This is not because I hated this book by any means, but I read it for the Namala and I just didn't get it. It was a very, very confusing book, and just the way it was told, I just completely lost the plot, honestly. We follow this character who gets reborn and then he is trying to go out and find out like the people who betrayed him and like kind of killed him. It's very confusing because of the rebornness, we have like different characters and it's a whole thing. But I must say that Martha Wells is a masterful storyteller with language, and it was really well written, and I did kind of enjoy it, but since I was confused, I just ended up being confused. I do have this urge to reread it one day because at the time when I read it, maybe I wasn't in the right mood for it, but I do wish to go back at the point. A part of me wants to try the audio because sometimes audio can give me a different experience, but at the same time, since it was so confusing, I'm scared it will be as confusing on audio. I don't know. But that was my thoughts, and I think at the time I rated it 3 out of 5 stars. I didn't reread it for like the World Fantasy Awards because I read it earlier this year. But yeah, that was what I thought about that at least. Apparently being confused is a pattern because the next I will put here on 5th place is The Possibilities by Giles Goldstein Love. So this one I borrowed at the library, so I don't have a physical copy, but it follows this mother whose child goes missing and disappears, and then people keep not believing the mother, and it turns out that there are like parallel universes, so she need to like travel through them to find her child, and in many of them her child is missing, and it's a whole thing. She needs to find her child, not a child that is her child. And I was just like, what is going on? It was again super confusing. It was very like up in the air and what actually happened in the end I am a bit unsure about, but again, like, not a bad book. It was just very much like, what is going on right now, and in a sense it makes sense when I think about it now, but in another sense I don't know if my enjoyment was so high, because like it's the same with Witch King. Like, while I think it is a cool book, I don't feel like I enjoyed myself that much when I was reading it, and I don't feel like I was enjoying myself that much when reading The Possibilities, even though I was definitely curious as to what was going on. Ended up giving that 3 out of 5 stars as well. But that is not to say again that it is a bad book. I would just say that it has this confusing vibe where I was unsure what was going on. So then we go to, is it 4th place? How do we count? And I will put on Looking Glass Sound by Courtney Ward. I have this thing where I feel like all of this was kind of like horror or like mystery horror vibes to them, like at least 3 of them, and this being the first one, has that kind of vibe. I think that is very interesting that horror, or like within the horror genre, not necessarily a horror book, is so highly regarded within like the fantasy sphere. Not like I'm saying that they shouldn't be or that they are bad by any means. It's just very interesting because in my head, what people love in fantasy is like high epic fantasy world and magic systems. But then we have like very horror-like stories being regarded highly. I just think it's an interesting observation for me, but maybe I'm not that deep into the fantasy world to like analyze this at all. But I just think it's interesting. And this is why I really like keeping up with what is nominated and what is popular, like compared to what is nominated and what is like popular, what is selling, because that is two completely different things. And I think it's very interesting. Apparently my brain has become like this after studying book things, and it's very fun. But looking that sound, sorry, back to the actual book, is kind of a horror book with obviously fantastical elements in it. We follow our main character who has his summer at his like summer house, and then he has two friends, and then something terrible happens. But I don't know, remember right now, because I never read synopsis in books, if it spoils this happening. But I'm not going to say because I was very shocked. Even though it happens very early, I was like, what is going on? What is going on? And I actually loved it at that point. Like the first 100 pages was incredible. And then we want to be a writer. Like I make her want to be a writer and write about this thing that happened to him. But then we meet another character that also want to write about what happened to him. Which is like, when I explain it like that, it sounds very weird because like, how can this other character write about what happened to him? But you have to read it to find out. And then we have these other flashes in the middle of the book. There is writing about what is happening in a way. So we have kind of different narratives that all kind of like gets a bit blended together after a while. And again, it turned super confusing because I was so confused of who was writing what, and I was like, what is going on? And also there was like some very emotional scenes, I can say, that was kind of written with a lot of distance and like a lot of like, oh, this happened and now they're gone. And I was like, wait, what? I missed sort of an emotional connection later to like the things happening on page, because I felt like it became a very like flat narrative to that, and that I also felt was lacking for me to like truly felt like this was a huge event in the book in a way. But again, so all those things died it down for me, where it was confusing and then the lack of emotional connection to like big events in the book. And again, not a bad book, a very fascinating book, but it goes in really weird places, which I do think is always fun to explore. But for me, I was just a bit like, it was confusing as well. I give this 3 out of 5 stars as well. There we have that. So the next one I will put on, is it then 3rd place, is Starling House by Alex E. Harrow. Again, I have a pretty Illumicrate edition, which was also of Witch King, which is a bit funny. And this one I had heard, I guess, more about than others because I owned this last year when it was released. And then like, it's Alex E. Harrow, which is a really known author for me at least. And this one is again a bit like horror-esque story. We have this girl who grows up very poor and is trying to take care of her brother, and there's this house and street that she keeps dreaming about over and over and over, and she actually gets hired to clean this house, and then the house just kind of, I wouldn't say necessarily wants her, but it does. But like, she has a really deep connection to this house, which is it evil, is it nice? I guess you need to read it to find out. There's also this hot dude there, and they're like, with each other. And again, I think that this book was really, really well written. Like, the language is really, really good. There's just like immerses you into the story, and it was a solid written book. However, I just felt like I didn't care that much for the story, I guess. I cared for the characters, but I just didn't care for this house. I felt like I was just reading another like How's It Trying to Take You book in a way. So I was just like not feeling super into the story because of this. So I was struggling with this too. I just struggle with everything to like care in a way. And it was very short though. It was like almost just 300 pages. Granted, the other ones here, like Possibilities and Looking Glass Sound, were also really short. So again, limited time, I guess. But I just found myself lacking something to truly be committed to the story. So I ended up giving this 3 out of 5 stars as well. So we have a pattern where like I felt fine about a lot of these. So now we are down to our last 2, and one of them is actually like the official winner. So we are like on the same level here. But I was struggling picking which one of these 2 that I enjoy the most, or like that I like the most. But I do think I have decided. I was struggling to pick between them because these are also the ones I like the most, you know? So on 2nd place, I will put The Reformatory by Tananari Du. this one is also like a horror-esque story. It's set in the 1950s and it follows these two siblings that are black and is living in a racist, turbulent time in the States. And one of them, the younger brother, gets sent to this school, which is actually a prison, after kicking a white boy. And there was like ghosts happening there, where the ghost of the boys that were mistreated there talks to him. We also have the girl who is his sister and is trying to bring him to freedom again. It is a very hard-hitting story. It captures the atmosphere of this time, I think, really, really well, and it was just written so good. You really like are dragged into the story, and you really care for these two siblings and want them to find freedom for, well, I was going to say each other in a way. I was very invested in the story, and I think that it was done beautifully and was really touching, but also at the same time super exciting and very fascinating as into like what is actually going on, how is this gonna go. I thought it was done super well and I really, really enjoyed it. This is the official winner and I love that because I feel like it was just written so well and done so well, and it made me very curious about the author's other works. This is giving a strong 4 out of 5 stars for me, and I'm very, again, happy that this is a winner, not just because of out of all of the nominees, this is one of the two that I enjoyed the most, but it was honestly super enjoyable and I would recommend it highly because I feel like it has historical elements, sibling elements, haunted elements, and other like social justice and important themes and topics that is not just that is relevant for our world very much right now. So like it brings all of these elements together and I think it does it incredibly well. So again, very much recommend and very happy that is the official winner. So what is left then? If you look at the nominees you would know, but we have Shigiri and the Brass Head of Balafun by Vol Talabi. This one was again a book that I read for the Nabila, and I was struggling so hard to read this, by the way, because like it just wasn't available at like the library, and I couldn't like, what was it? I don't even remember. Why was I struggling so much? Could I not get the audio? I don't know what I was doing, honestly. I don't remember, but I just like I had to buy a copy, even though like I'm trying to avoid buying copies to read for awards, for example, because what if I don't enjoy them, you know? But then I read it at the time because when I was reading it for a while, and it was so good. So now I'm just like very happy I have a copy. So you know, maybe it was just meant to be. I really, really enjoyed this one. I'm sitting left, like it's many, many months since I read it, and I'm sitting left with just only, I feel like, good impressions. And now I'm struggling to remember exactly like how to describe the plot. But we are in a world where like demons or like magical creatures are connected to our world, our human world, to go into like the magical world. And we have a main character who has literally like a 9 to 5 job there, and he's super, super bored. He works for like in a spirit company and like he's hating his life basically. I'm just cheating to look at the synopsis. He meets another, like, I can we call it a demon? I'm unsure actually. They go out at least on like this adventure and like steal something, and it goes a bit high wire to say it like that, because he wants to quit his job and then he gets hired to do this last thing. It's like a heist story. We also get flashback to how these two characters met each other, because like there's more to that like character that like he's doing this heist with. And honestly, it was just humoristic and fun. Such a ride. I kind of would reread it now talking about it because I'm feeling like the details are slipping away a bit, as happens sometimes, you know. You know, things from our world, for example, like being a company worker, etc. and like drawing it into a fun way. I feel like when, especially when you get, for example, the flashbacks, it really gives layers to the story and to the characters and their relationship. And you know, I really like heist stories. I thought it was really fun, and I thought it was fun with the things that were revealed throughout the book. Is this a standalone? Was it coming more? Because I haven't checked since I read it, and now I'm curious. It seems to just not have anything like, I was gonna say, added to it. So a standalone it is. I mean, it makes sense since like it was kind of wrapped up, but I also feel like they could have added more, maybe a spin-off or something. But yeah, it was a really good time, and I'm just left with like I really enjoyed it, and I didn't expect to, I guess. I don't know why. I felt at the time, I was just, this is so random because I hadn't heard about it. But that is something I also really enjoy with awards, where like you find titles that you might have not heard about or not picked up. And that is like what is good about awards, if they can be balanced to like super popular titles versus not as popular titles. But I feel like I haven't seen anyone talk or read this, so I would actually very much recommend it. I really, really enjoyed it. I didn't give it a 5. I need certain criteria in my head to give a book a 5, apparently, but I give it a very strong 4, and I would recommend this highly, as I would the Reformatory. The others I would recommend for different kind of audiences. Again, none of them were bad books, but they had elements to it that made it either less interesting or not as engaging for me. What is a bad book anyway? We could talk about that too. Like, what is a bad book? Who decides that? I don't know. It says here, a magical heist novel and a thrilling love story. This is a contemporary fantasy. Pick it up. You will have a really good time. It's a thriller. It is high stakes art heist love story with Nigerian gods and demons. I'm just trying to pitch it really hard for you because I feel like more people should read it. But yeah, I am happy that I got to talk about it more in this video, and I'm happy about the winner as well, because again, my top, like out of my top 2. And I feel like that was it for this video. I'm definitely reading at least the Nebulas next year, which seems to now have become my yearly thing, because I like to be on top of things, like new releases, what is good, what is popular, you know, it's interesting. Leave a kind of fantasy emoji down below if you enjoyed this. You should see me soon in a new one. Thank you so much for watching, and you should see me soon. Bye!